smile upon my face, 'cause there's excitement in the chase, this I know.
My name is Jennifer Griffiths. I've worked for Circle IT for 15 years. I haven't worked in HR the whole time I've been here. Basically, I started off in operations and fell into HR is probably the best way to put that. We employ 70 people. We started the company 15 years ago and there was 4 of us. So you can imagine, you know, for that 15 years, it's been a massive growth spurt. And we're in a really fast-paced industry as well. So it's never, you know, you can never rest on your laurels. It was about 5 years ago that I fell into HR. The reason that I fell into HR was because we realized that there was actually a problem within the business with our employee turnover. People were leaving and we didn't know why. We are a fast-paced, high-growth company. It was almost like on to the next, without really looking at the reasons why. I actually just did some research. I did a bit of, you know, employee turnover, worked out how you actually measure that and why, and went about looking at how many people we'd lost, which was actually 54% of our staff in the year 2013 to 14, and what the cost was. So I knew that I was never going to get any buy-in from the board or from any senior management unless I had some costs associated with this, because it's all very well saying, oh, you know, you're losing people, but why is that important? We use People HR to monitor the turnover within the business. And so we worked out that it cost us £250,000 just in re-employing people. A massive, massive issue for us as a business. And at that point, people sat up and took notice. Once we'd identified the problem, the next step was, what do we do about this? Through my research, I had realised that probably what we were lacking was a real picture of how people were feeling in the business, why they were leaving. It was fairly straightforward then from the point of view of, let's do an employee survey. Let's actually find out what people are really feeling and thinking, and let's do something about it. The way we went about it is we did a company survey based on the Gallup questions. The way Gallup works is that you've got 12 questions that they've researched and said, these are the 12 employee engagement drivers. And if you ask these 12 questions, you'll be able to get a really good feel for if your workforce are engaged. The results were then collated and we identified the top 3 areas that we needed to work on and actually put action plans into place. You know, the response from that was almost immediate. Some of the easier things to solve, people didn't feel like they were being listened to or had any outlet.
My name's Katie, my job title is Services Manager. HR decided to hold a meeting with all the service desks on the list and decided to put an action plan in place. We had a member of HR as well as team members in a room and basically just gained their feedback. So we had a lot of things off the back of that, which included having monthly team meetings, having one-to-ones every month with team members. They felt as though they didn't have a voice, so they wanted to have some sort of say in how they could improve the desk.
My name is Rhys Davis and I'm a service desk analyst first line. Well, we have a morning meeting every day with our team, and in that meeting, Katie, our manager, will basically say to us, guys, what's going on? You know, how's everyone doing? Is there anything, any concerns, anything like that?
Owen, should we start with you? Rachel, James Cole, actually.
All the feedback we provide to basically anybody really is taken on board, compared to other companies where most feedback is taken in and just completely ignored, mainly because of your position within the company. But yeah, always feel listened to and understood, always.
We introduced a suggestions and feedback area, and people were able to go on there and actually say, look, we think you should do this. Some were really quick wins for us. For example, we used to charge our staff for parking. And one of the things that kept coming up was, we want free parking. And it sounds kind of funny now to me because it's obvious, but actually it was a really quick thing to fix. We just had to go, right, okay, let's do it. But then obviously there was some underlying themes there as well, which were a bit more hard to tackle. So we didn't score very well actually in our training development areas. Potentially people thought that, you know, that there was more we could do with their development. And I think it's really an obvious human need is to be learning and to be feeling like you're always kind of getting better at what you're doing.
My name is Laura. I've worked for Circle IT for the past year and a bit, I basically do a little bit of everything that's not technical. With regard to personal development, I said in my interview that I wanted a career and not a job.
How we tackled that was looked at a skills inventory within the business. So everybody's skills were assessed and we looked at what gaps we needed to cover from a business perspective, not just from a personal perspective. So it was a win-win in that respect. And they could see that we were actually doing something about it, which was probably the most important thing. I think that's something that people forget when they run employee surveys, is communicate the results and make sure that you are actually acting on it.
So started as a resource coordinator, and then one of the guys handed his notice in, who was a service delivery manager. So I thought, well, if there's anything I am good at, it's building relationships. So I applied for that role with absolutely no experience of the job, and they said, you've got absolutely no experience, but we are really pleased with what you've put together. So we basically put a plan in place. So within 6 months I will integrate out of my current role and transition into a service delivery manager role.
So the results of the survey, the quick wins, obviously, we saw instant results from the point of view of morale, so you could obviously feel a different kind of atmosphere within the office immediately.
When the alarm goes up in the morning, generally it's like, wow, we really want to stay asleep. But the thing with Circle is and there's not been a day that has gone by that I've not wanted to go to work. And for me, that's really important. The day that you start dreading going to work is the day that you need to be looking for another job. From a business point of view and business impact point of view, we reduced the turnover within our business from 54% to 15% within 2 years. We basically saved, in doing that, at least £100,000. We also then went and submitted an application to the Employee Engagement Awards in London, and we actually won. And you know, there was quite a few big companies we were up against. All the hard work that we'd done paid off in more ways than one.
We are all looking for adventure. We are all looking for adventure. We are all looking for adventure.
Yeah, so we use People HR to monitor several areas of the business, of course. The best use of it that we've found for engagement is we use the logbooks to basically record all of our one-to-ones. And what that means is that we can record every month how engaged people are in the business. So it's not just about an annual survey, it's an ongoing piece of work. So we're always on top of it. And if we see any dips, we can act. So the way that People HR has helped us with that is we can now export queries really straightforwardly and easily that show us exactly what's going on in our business live. All of our managers have now got it built into their performance stats on how their teams are engaged, so we're able to then break it down into departments, and they're measured on that also. One of the best results we had from implementing the employee surveys was, it wasn't necessarily in the front of our minds when we actually started it, but when we also measure customer satisfaction as well, of course, and there was a massive correlation between the improvement there and the improvement with our employee engagement scores, and it was really easy to see that our employees being motivated and inspired to work here made a massive difference to how they served our customers.
Service desk stats have increased tenfold. From a productivity point of view, we've seen excellent results from someone on the first line having 20 tickets to having 10, because they're working more efficiently, they're working quicker and better. We've definitely seen it impacted on our customers. Customer feedback has been fantastic. At the end of every ticket, we send out a survey score, and the survey scores that we're having are promoters, which is what we want to see from an NPS perspective. From my point of view, it's definitely helped me manage my team, whereas before I was fighting fires. Now I'm able to look at in the future to see what we can do to carry on making the team grow from strength to strength. The team is a really strong team, the morale is great, and we're looking forward to the next year.
Yeah, I do see a future for myself at Circle. I think it is a really good company that grow and develop in, and there's lots of room for personal development as well, and I feel like I'm getting that every day. So I think there will be definitely progression within Circle and a place for me in the future.
from where we came from 2013 and 2014, where we had a turnover of 54%, all the way up to us improving that through the engagement surveys to 15%, HR have now got a seat on the boardroom table as a result of that and other things we've been doing, of course. But the big thing with that is the board now are very interested in knowing how our employees are feeling, and then we actually report our results at board level. But really, to make more of an impact, we need to know a bit more often. If you make an action plan, say in January, it may change by August, and that's kind of what we found, especially as we're so fast-paced and there's a lot of change. And so what we've decided to do is actually launch pulse surveys. So every quarter, a smaller survey with a few key questions within it that give us a bit of a check-in, if you like, on how people are feeling, and just checking to see if the action plans we've put in place are actually having an impact as well. Because what if you've kind of interpreted results incorrectly and you're going off on a tangent and you're not focusing on the right things? So the pulse surveys will help us focus on the right things, and they'll help us make sure that people are still kind of feeling what we thought they were feeling when we did the company survey. If I had to give advice to aspiring HR professionals, it would be to make sure your business is ready. There's probably no point in pushing things within the HR function where the business isn't ready to hear it. It very often will fail, and that will mean that the business is never ready to hear it because they've seen it as a failure. And so you've really got to make sure you've got that buy-in at the board level. The best way to do that is to think about the impact anything is having on the business. If you can put numbers to that, absolutely brilliant. That is going to be the thing that makes people sit up and take notice. And beyond that, it would probably be make sure that you don't get too into the detail. Try and kind of draw out really the key themes. HR people are very passionate usually about making a difference, and I think it's really easy to get carried away and think I can change the world in a year. You can't, and I've made that mistake myself, which is why I'm able to kind of say it. I think you've got to kind of go, right, these are the top 3 things, I'm going to tackle them, have your action plan, stick to it, and just make sure you've got that buy-in.
And I'm living free, living free, living free, and I was meant to be. Living free, living free, living free, and I was meant to be. I'm living free, living free, living free, and I was meant to be free, meant to be free.